and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us from Precipitate Gold. Precipitate can be traded as PRG. Today we have with us the CEO, Jeff Wilson, and this is an exciting time. We will be discussing the company and some forward-looking statements. So Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us today and discussing your projects in the Dominican Republic.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off by discussing the jurisdiction, the Dominican Republic. Many people don't know that one of the largest gold mines, the largest mines in the world in Latin America, the largest gold mine in Latin America, and the fourth or fifth largest in the world is right here in the Dominican Republic. And I just saw news recently that Barrick and Newmont, that I believe is partnered on that project, is planning a major expansion. And it's been a huge contribution to the Dominican Republic's economy. So could you discuss the Dominican Republic as a jurisdiction and what's going on at the Pueblo Viejo mine?
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. It's sort of not necessarily familiar territory for a lot of junior mining exploration investors. But as you mentioned, Barrick and Newmont are there in a partnership. They've got a mine there, the Pueblo Viejo mine, that is, in recent years has been producing over 1 million ounces per year at an incredibly low all-in sustaining cost between $500 and $600 US. It's a major contributor, as you mentioned, to the country's economy. And so this is a country that has significant mineral wealth. There are other mining operations in country, not all of which is all in that same area, but certainly there are some regional areas within the DR where mining is much more prevalent. And we, with our latest asset, are sort of in the heart of that very mining active region within the country. But the country is quite naturally, well endowed with respect to mineral resources. And however, in up until about 10 or 15 years ago, the country was sort of blanket staked by or owned by a number of major international companies, and there really wasn't a lot of exploration going on because there wasn't a lot of prospective ground to be attained. That changed. They changed some mining laws to sort of limit the amount of exploration ground that any one company can hold. And that allowed for, junior companies or smaller new explorers to come in and get active in exploration. And the only way to identify future mines is just to go out there and do the exploration work. And in 2012, a company called Gold Quest Mining made a significant discovery in a relatively new belt or new region of the Dominican Republic where, on the back of their drill discovery, their share price as many people will recall, a pretty tough market back in 2012, share price went from about 6 cents to $2 on a drill hole. And they've since advanced that to a PEA stage. They've got about 3.5 million ounce resource there. And so that sort of was one of the first lights that shone on the country in terms of exploration potential. And that's when we came into the Dominican Republic in 2012, acquiring ground in that same region as Gold Quest. So geopolitically, politically, from a taxation standpoint, the DR is a country where, mining is happening. Where the government recognizes the financial and economic benefits of mining and also have recognized that they need to encourage exploration at an early stage in order to have, future sustainable mining industry for years to come. So, from our experience over the course of the last seven or so years in the country, we found it to be a great opportunity in a country that's relatively underexplored to go out and find new possible targets for discovery.
And it's so important when you're looking at exploration and you're looking around some of the best top gold mine in Latin America to have the right people involved. And Jeff, you've been working. I know I've been observing. You've been working hard on this project, on this company for many years. You also behind you have Adrian Fleming, who many investors know sold Underworld to Kinross for 139 million in 2010, and had the success with Northern Empire, uh, with Core buying out the company for 117 million. You also have Quentin Hennig, who we know from Novo, and Alistair Waddle, who was the former CEO of GoldQuest. And yesterday or this week, you announced news that you're bringing on a technical person that was very important with the discovery of Pueblo Viejo. That's going to help with the targeting of drill targets on this project that you're completely sort of surrounding the Pueblo Viejo mine. So if you could talk about the quality, I would say the five-star team that's in place right now, plus the new recent addition that worked at Pueblo Viejo when the discovery was made.
Yeah, it's I think it's critical to understand for a lot of people that oftentimes in the exploration business, and specifically with respect to discoveries, more often than not in our business, it's not the first guy in that goes in and makes the big discovery. It's usually comes with the benefit of previous work, and so it's sort of the second, sometimes it's the second or the third company that comes in and sort of is able to benefit from previous work, sort of adapt the thesis, and then be able to take something that other people had maybe broken their pick on, and not made the discovery, and just sort of shift the angle of the drill, or plot things up a little bit differently, and that's when the success comes. So it is sometimes a process of elimination. So having people, in our opinion, having people who first and foremost from a broad board and technical level, we think we've got a fantastic exploration team with regards to our in-house team and our board and the people that you mentioned. But also, geology is, it's a science, and so you want people who have some hands-on experience with sort of rock type and geology that you're working in, and that's where, as you mentioned, Darren O'Brien, who we recently had come onto the team to assist our management team in target delineation in the DR, provides a great source of intelligence. He has stood within the Pueblo Viejo project boundaries. He stood within the pits, doing the mapping and geology work there, and so has a keen understanding of where you want to be in the system, and the types of rock types that are indicative of potential mineralization. And so sometimes with drilling and with exploration and targeting, it's a game of inches, and it's the angle of the drill and where you set up your collaring. And so Darren is spending about a month down at the project right now with my Vice President of Exploration, Michael Moore, and along with a couple of other Canadian geos, and are going through the refinement of specifically where we want to target these drill holes. On another level, we've also have as an advisor to our team a gentleman by the name of Mexico Angeles Lithgow, and he is the former president and chief executive of the Pueblo Viejo mining operation. So he was the man in the top seat at Pueblo Viejo mining operations in the Dominican Republic. He was there for 11 years and was responsible for, as we talked about at the onset, one of the single largest economic drivers to the country. And so this is a gentleman who, is very well connected, not only in the mining sector in the DR, but also because of the project's importance in the country, very well connected politically and within the community and the business community. And so, again, if you're going to succeed in a jurisdiction, you want to make sure that you have as many of the boxes ticked off to allow yourself the best path forward. And we've been fortunate enough to benefit from the expertise of other people who have either operated in country or operated in this region previously. And we think that gives us a great leg up in advancing these projects rapidly. And a lot of that also will come from the fact that this project has been worked in the past. There is some prior drilling on the project. So we're, again, able to reflect upon some of the previous work and perhaps look at things with a different lens or a slightly different perspective. and hopefully allow ourselves the ability to vector toward perhaps some opportunities in areas that have not been tested before, like I say, with a new lens.
So today we're discussing with Jeff Wilson, the CEO of Precipitate Gold, which can be treated as PRG, the significance of the Pueblo Viejo mine in Dominican Republic, where they have built a strategic land position surrounding the world-class, the largest gold mine in Latin America, run by Barrick and Newmont. They are fully permitted now, Precipitate, for drilling at all the target zones. They have an upcoming drill program in 2020. Could you discuss, Jeff, some of the targets that you're working on and what investors should look to in 2020 with the drill program that you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. We spent a great deal of time on the back of the acquisition of this asset and pulling this all together and consolidating this land package. We wanted to make sure that we gave ourselves the best chance of success once the drills started turning. And so leading into that, as I said before, there was a lot of historic data. So we did an enormous amount of data compilation and, QA/QC or, quality assurance checking, reinterpretation. We brought in, again, talking about high-level people, we brought in some previous Newmont and Barrick people to do some geophysical work. What we wanted to do was sort of understand the work that had been done before and where there might be some pockets of opportunity. We then set out and did an extensive program of sampling within sort of that primary target area that we call the Loma Cuava or Lithocap zone, which is immediately west of the mining operation at Barrick. So that gave us some new indications of where there was some geochemical anomalies at surface, where we were either seeing gold or copper or trace metal elements that would point toward a high self-sedation epithermal system, which is the same kind of geology as Pueblo Viejo next door. And so that created some anomalies that we thought, okay, well, this is interesting and this is new data. This kind of work had not been done here before. And then we applied ground magnetic survey over that same area. So again, you're adding a second layer of data to understand the geophysical or magnetic signatures of this target area. And so again, some anomalies emerged from that, these magnetic lows that again would be symbolic or indicative of a high self-sedation epithermal type system. So that was sort of another program of work that we did, and we were starting to see, okay, well, where we're seeing the geochem anomalies, we're also seeing these magnetic anomalies. So that's interesting. That's, two layers of information pointing to these certain targets. We then went in and had a high-level crew go in and do some mapping on this. So understanding the rock types and the geology. And again, we were able to sort of plot up, where we were seeing the indicators of mineralization or high self-sedation epithermal mineralization. And so it was kind of the culmination of those three layers of data that took, the majority of 2019, quite frankly, to put together and then assess and interpret to get us to a point in about September, October, where we felt comfortable that we had delineated high priority targets. But perhaps most importantly, these targets were all situated in areas that previous operators had not drilled before. So these are untested targets. We're not trying to go back and reinvent the wheel or re-drill in areas where other guys failed. I mean, there's no upside in that for us. But we're seeing these significant zones or areas of anomalous geochem or geophysics that have never been drilled. And part of that comes from the fact that we did, I hesitate to say higher level, but I think we did higher level data collection that allowed us, again, to see these targets a little differently or perhaps for the first time, where other companies working this ground had simply not done that high level geophysical and geochemical surveying. So with those targets, as you mentioned, we then didn't want to necessarily put the cart before the horse and run out and raise money on the target delineation. We thought that the best thing for us to do, because the company was relatively well capitalized at the time with cash, that we wanted to advance the project to a point where we had the drill permits in hand. So not only having the targets, but having the permits. And that came about for us, again, just a couple of months ago, and kind of was the catalyst for us to say, okay, now we are, fully equipped with targets and permits to go out and do a significant and substantial drill program to test these targets. And that was the point in time at which we elected to go out and raise some money to position ourselves to start drilling. That took a little bit longer than we had anticipated in terms of getting that all closed off. We had some hurdles to jump over with regards to that, and so it put us in a position where, the best decision for us was to commence that drill program in January versus late 2019, where we might run into a sort of a period where we'd have to pause over the holiday season, and that becomes a little bit costly. So our management team here is elected to say, okay, we've got all the targets, we've got all the permits, we're now adequately financed. Let's hit the ground running here come January 2020 with a significant drill program to test these targets.
So you heard it here, the Precipitate Gold CEO Jeff Wilson, PRG on the TSX venture. They've got the targets, they've got the permits, they've already done the financing, they're ready to drill in early January 2020. Please check out the website, precipitategold.com. Jeff, is there anything else that you'd like to conclude with?
No, just that I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here today, Jeb, and I'm really looking forward to, as I said, hitting the ground running come January and getting the drills turned.